Welcome to the Healing Journey with your host, Dr. Kate Olin. Join us for another episode where we create a safe space to engage in a vulnerable discussion that pertains to all aspects of healing. And now your host, Dr. Kate Olin.
Welcome to the Healing Journey, safe space to engage in vulnerable discussion. I'm your host, Dr. Kate Olin, and today I am so excited to be joined by a guest whose energy and passion have inspired me along my long and winding road of a healing journey. Fred LeBlanc is here today. Fred is the lead singer and drummer of the iconic band Cowboy Mouth out of New Orleans. If you have never seen this, the lead singer as the drummer, I encourage you to look up some YouTube videos because I find it both fascinating and highly entertaining. If you've ever been to one of their shows, then you already know it is not just a concert. It's an experience. Fred has a way of turning music into a release, inviting everyone in the room to let go of negative energy and tap into something bigger, something deeper, what I find to be a form of healing. So in this conversation, we're going to talk to Fred about his own personal healing journey, the powerful role drumming plays in moving energy through the body and the crowd, and how music can be both cathartic and communal. So together, we'll explore how rhythm, vulnerability, and connection can help us all find release and renewal. So let's dive in. Fred, welcome to the Healing Journey.
Hey, Kate, what's up?
Man, I got a lot of things going. My first episode went live this week, so that's pretty exciting. And in that first week, then I get to interview one of my favorite rock stars.
Oh, now you're going for it, aren't you, Kate?
Well, listen, I mean, you're a rock star, but you're humble. You keep it real. You feel like you make us, the crowd, your fans, you make us feel like we're part of this with you.
Well, I mean, y'all are. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. We wouldn't be able to do this. I mean, I did learn. There's one of the many things I learned during lockdown is that, you're not creating a fan base as a musician, you're helping to create a community. And, and that's kind of what it is, no matter how big or small that community is. It's, if you call it a fan base, it kind of keeps you, at least in my opinion, keeps you at, one step more of a distance from it. Whereas, in a community, you're just as involved. And I always kind of looked at it at a Cowboy Mouth show is like just a group full of people, and me and my three buddies, we're going to be the band tonight. You guys will be the audience, and who knows, maybe another night you'll be the band and we'll be the audience. It's just, we're playing this game called rock band in a giant room, and that's always the way I've kind of looked at it, so that way I didn't take it either too seriously or not seriously enough, that kind of thing.
Well, it sounds like you're keeping your work as your play.
Trying to.
It shows. I mean, you got that kind of energy.
I've been very, very, very fortunate. So I cannot complain at all.
Yeah. So let me see. Here's where I want to start because, to me, it's very clear to me as a self-proclaimed healer, that I help people heal. That's how I make my living.
Yeah.
That I can tell that you have done your own personal healing. And, this is a couple of years ago, I had that realization because, I really started this journey when I found my passion for my career, myofascial release, which that's a whole nother episode. But I was at one of your shows and you had us take this deep breath and focus on letting go of fear and shame. And you had us all worry, all those negative things. Yeah. What else? Am I missing anything else? What else do you?
I got to be in the moment. I got to be present,
Yeah. Being present, man. But you had us take a deep breath and focus on letting go of that. And you had me screaming my head off. And I'm pretty sure I was not the only one.
Yeah.
And that was like, it was like communal catharsis. Like It wasn't just cathartic because I was letting go, but I could feel everybody around me present in that moment. And we were all there and you created that.
Awesome.
How did this get started for you?
I wasn't always a front man. I was actually kind of shy and reserved away from the drums. I learned a long time ago, I can play a number of different instruments, but always kind of been a drummer at heart. The journey is that I was born deaf. But I had some deformities in my ears and my lungs were underdeveloped, so I couldn't really speak or anything like that till I was about 3, and they could perform the operation to open up my hearing passages after my lungs had developed. And so therefore my folks used to lean my head on stereo speakers, giant stereo speakers at the time, and apparently I could sing before I could talk. So music was always kind of my first communication. And I just gravitated towards the drums. Oscar the Grouch was a big hero when I was a kid because I liked the fact that he told everybody off, lived in a garbage can, didn't have to clean his room thing. And I thought, this is pretty good, So for one Christmas, I actually asked Santa Claus for a giant green garbage can. That was all I wanted when I was like 5.
Oh my God. I wish my kids would ask me for that. That would be so...
Oh, my parents loved it. They were like, we're getting off easy. So Christmas morning, there it was, this giant green garbage can. And, and it's great. They loved it until I turned it over and hit it. I was like, oh, good. I like this. Then they realized that might have been a bad idea. So, but, playing drums has always just been kind of primal. And I learned at a very intuitive early age that my talent wasn't necessarily music. I was just using music to move a lot of energy. I didn't know how I did it. I didn't really know what I did, but I can play, I can sing, I can play guitar, bass, piano, all that stuff. But when I played drums, the response was always different. It was like people they had to look. They had to at least see it for a little bit. They could look away, but they had to at least see it. Guitar, I'm just another guitar player. Bass, even singing to a certain extent, but playing the drums, people, it was whatever I was doing, which I still don't get, it was different. And they were like, oh, okay, we have to watch this. So I kind of understood that. And then just playing in bands, different bands, I realized I kind of wanted to be a front man, write my own songs, kind of put my own ideas across, my own experiences, my own ideas. It was never anything as lofty as that. But it was kind of like, I want to write songs. I want to sing, blah, blah, blah. So, and then that kind of became having to be a front man, having to take my personality and expand it and go, okay, what pieces can I use? I realized that I did not want to do the typical front man thing. Hey, everybody's going to party. I just thought, it's kind of been done. And I grew, my musical heroes weren't, like people like, Led Zeppelin or Journey and stuff like that. I can appreciate that stuff now that I'm older. But, my musical heroes were, kind of the 80s, early 90s underground, bands like The Replacements, REM in the early days, yes. Jason Borchers, things like that. Those were my rock stars. And, because of the situation I was in, all of a sudden I had access to these bands and these people very quickly. It's like, oh, okay, this is kind of weird. Maybe this isn't impossible because if these guys can make that kind of noise, I can do it. And just the idea of the rock star was kind of something that was like very viewed as very passé and very cliche and kind of very silly. Kind of like, it's kind of a punk rock ethos kind of, And so
there's space for that. That can be very, that can be therapeutic too. But like you said, that's been done. It's been done.
These are the things you learn in life.
Sure.
It's like, what, as a friend of mine once said, what you want in your 20s and 30s isn't necessarily what you want in your 40s and 50s. Amen. And that can go on many different levels. So just the idea of doing the typical rock star thing at the time just wasn't appealing. And so I always had this understanding of, the stories about Elvis Presley, him understanding that he had this talent, not that I'm comparing myself to Elvis Presley in any sort of way whatsoever. It's just
you get there.
It can be a similar experience of understanding that you have a certain ability that not a lot of people get. And what do you choose to do with it? And for him, he always felt that he kind of, on a certain level, either didn't live up to or betrayed his talent for whatever reason. I'm not going to get psychology of the man or whatever. All I'm saying is, I had that same kind of impetus to say, okay, I've got this ability. What am I going to do with it? And, the first band I was in that did anything on a national level, a band called Dash Rip Rock. It's a great band, great players, a great situation, but it was also kind of negative, that in that punk rock way of, jumping into a nice Cadillac, a 1950s cherry red Cadillac, and flooring it and driving it straight to a brick wall. It does this, it seems kind of like, okay, what was that all about?
Yeah. And it was, I think an anger, a need for movement, a need for passion, but with no goal.
What comes after that? I'm not into the whole ethos of, live fast, die young, and leave a good looking chorus. It's like, no, when I turn this thing in at the end of its tenure, I want it to be completely and thoroughly used up, and I want to be able to look the big guy upstairs right in the eye and say, wow, that was a blast,
This brings up a funny, a little anecdote. I played one of your songs for one of my clients, played I Believe. I wanted to share it with him. I was using it for not just my healing, but sharing that with a client. And he said, is this a Christian band? I said, well, that's not how they're advertised, but I feel that like spiritual, that vibe through some of your music, but you're a rock and roll man, right?
Yeah. But at the same time, there is that element up there. I don't really advertise any sort of spiritual band. Number one, because everybody in the band has different ideas. And number two, about all kinds of things, so, I just wanted to make sure that what we were doing could ultimately, be construed as something positive,
Well, you talked a minute ago about moving energy, and that's something I've been really looking into myself. Becoming aware of energy actually was kind of a big deal to me. And looking back a couple of years ago, like, oh my gosh, how did I not understand how important it is to get things moving? For you, when you say moving energy, what does that mean to you?
To be honest with you, to try to explain it would be futile because I don't really know what I do. Yeah. I just feel it. It was like a very intuitive thing. I understood at an early age that I had this ability, or at least I was conscious of my ability to move a lot of energy almost effortlessly. I didn't know how I was doing it. I didn't know what I was doing, but I understood that I did it. And I still don't. But I know that I use music now and the band shows to put across that energy of being alive in the moment, joy, celebration, and things like that. And using a rock and roll show in a kind of a non-traditional sense of using it as a sort of a celebratory kind of almost healing thing, but that's just my take on it. And I'm not going to insist that others experience the same thing I do. I'm just going to put it out there, hope for the best, with the understanding that I'm putting out something that I think is positive, and the return that I and we have gotten over the years has just been phenomenal. The stories of experiences and how they've used this band or that song or that show to at a pivotal point in their lives, and every band gets that. Every band gets that, and that's part of the great thing of what we as musicians did. It's like one of the things I do in order to kind of keep a positive framework through the ups and downs of being a professional musician is I keep in mind, no matter whether you're Kiss or the Holiday Inn Band on a Tuesday night playing Jimmy Buffett covers in the middle of nowhere, millions of people, literally millions, who would give their left arm to be any one of us on our worst night. Yeah. And so that kind of centers me and reminds me to be grateful and to understand that the journey isn't over just because I've reached or have not reached a certain point. It's like, okay, the journey is still ongoing. Anything can happen. And
Amen.
If life shows you anything, it's that anything can happen,
Yeah. The journey is still going. I'm writing that down. I'm putting that in my journal. I'm highlighting that for this episode, because isn't it a journey that we're still on, right?
Yeah. Journey doesn't end until, as far as we know, until the day we drop. But Could go further than that too. It probably does. So,
well, listen, I'm going to ask you to do a little, I don't know, activity, I guess, with me. As I was thinking about this interview, I was going through some of your songs that have had a bigger impact. I mean, I love your music, all of it, but there's a couple songs that in my mind stick out. I just want to dissect it down a little bit. My first song that I want to talk to you about.
Keep in mind, these songs, my impressions of them are going to be very different because they may not even be congruent, like in terms of like where the idea for the song or the impetus from the song came from. So I don't want anybody to feel like they're incorrect in either their interpretation or their experience of a song or show or something like that,
Well, isn't that the beauty of art? We all get to have a different experience. And let's face it, in our everyday life, we all have our own experience that we're seeing through our own lens, and we can all see the exact same thing and see it differently.
Exactly. I always believe that, people listening to like whatever music or songs we play, they're having just as viable of a creative experience as I am in either writing or performing. It's like they're listening to it, experiencing it, enjoying it, maybe not enjoying it. It's just as viable as of a creative experience. It's give and take. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll give you a little background. So was this 2 years ago now? I was in Sedona. Part of my certification, I had to go to the expert level clinic that is called Therapy on the Rocks. That's John Barnes's business, and I am educated by John Barnes. But part of my certification is I had to go be a client. I had to receive 15 hours of work from the experts, and it wasn't just me receiving, it was also them challenging me to engage and participate in a healing process. And they asked us to, after this experience, okay, go home and journal about this. And I got home and all I just started writing the lyrics of Disconnected.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, Disconnected. So you got your guitar. Do you feel like you could start off that song for me for a minute and give our audience a little taste?
If you want me to, just play a little bit of it.
Yeah. Do you want me to give you rhythm?
Have you ever felt the thunder inside your heart? Letting go of everything that's gonna rip you apart. But if you don't free yourself, there ain't no brand new start. So you gotta let go. I once had a friend who lived in an eastern town. Moved back home and called and started hanging around. But every time I tried to talk to him, it put me down. So I gotta let go. Nobody knows who you are. Nobody cares who you are. Nobody knows why you feel disconnected. Anyway, there you go. So
everybody jump in, up and down. There, that's how it goes. Yes. Man, that came to me when I was in the middle of a unwinding session. If you're some people who know what myofascial release is, they know what that means. And man, I was letting go of everything that was going to tear me apart. And
well, that's kind of what the song. That's what the song was. It was like, for me personally, if you want to hear this, I don't, we don't have to.
Yeah, I do. I want to hear it all. That's why we're here, Fred. I want to know your healing experience.
It was kind of a letting go of a lot of BS that had been going on with relationship to the band, with relationship to my life. We had been through not one, but two major label experiences. Both of them had ended poorly for different reasons. It was me venting a lot of frustration. And if you listen to the lyrics, is what is it? Have you ever felt the thunder inside your heart? One verse says, holding on to everything that's going to rip you apart. And the end of it says, letting go of everything that's going to rip you apart. And there's the whole thing. It's kind of like, nobody knows who you are. You're struggling to be known. You're struggling to have this experience. But at the same time, and it was my personal experience of being on the road constantly, interacting with thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of people in any given moment. And then not only be in this kind of swirling miasma of energy and joy and celebration, but at the same time being completely isolated. It's like, whoa. And it was just me trying to deal with that, the kind of extremeness of my situation as a lead singer in a band that, was doing pretty good, but still couldn't get past a certain point. It was also me kind of understanding that I might not get to the point I initially wanted to get to in terms of career, but also understanding that might not be such a bad thing. Kind of accepting that maybe this isn't exactly everything I thought I wanted. Maybe that's not what I really wanted. Maybe the idea wasn't to reach a certain level of success, The main level was to actually go out there and spread this idea, spread this energy, and kind of put that out there as opposed to reaching some sort of empty status. And, understanding like I did over time that it might not have been such a bad thing that I didn't get to those points that I saw other friends get to, because I might not have survived it,
Well, right. It sounds to me like you were in the process of surrendering. You had to surrender those original goals.
Yeah.
Man, surrender is hard, man. That's hard. Letting go, truly letting go.
Oh, yeah, no, that's the story of my life.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's when you have a something like a rock band, it's not like you can plan to be successful. It's not like you can say, okay, we will reach point A, point B, but it kind of just happens. And then once it happens, then you can decide what to do with it. Yeah. But a lot of times, rock bands or creative, enclaves or whatever you want to call it, they're volatile by nature because, you get together with a group of people and you create something unique. And, there always has to be at least one person who's willing to say, okay, this is the direction we're going in. And sometimes in those situations, it's hard to be that one person because it's easy for everybody else to take their resentments and their own issues.
Their own ego.
That's what I was trying to say without saying it. But I mean,
that's what it is.
Exactly. I have an ego too. So, I mean,
we all do.
But, it's difficult. I was letting go of a lot of stuff and not all of it was stuff I wanted to let go of. And I was kind of trying to peace with it. And it was like, if you listen to some of the lyrics, some of it's pretty dark,
Yeah.
It was kind of like, but at the same time set to this really bouncy, happy tune,
I know. You can roll along.
It's like a songwriting kind of thing. It's kind of like, oh, let me see if I can put this together. Boom, boom, boom. So.
Yeah. Well, what I heard you say, you're talking about creating something. And actually, you know what? You mentioned something about you don't know if you would have survived those original goals. Are you referring to the rock star life? We lost many creators to the pressures that build up, whether it's drugs or alcohol or suicide. Creative people very often tend to create something beautiful from a pain. And that's something that you have to overcome as an artist. How do you do that for yourself?
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it is, it's because what, it's a very extreme form of life, not only creating out of, pain or whatever, but at the same time trying to turn that into something you can monetize and create commerce with. Like, okay, jump into the misery pile again. We need another hit. It's like, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. It's just, you got to write another Jenny Says. It's like, I'm never going to be that guy again. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be able to have that howl of pain because I'm just not that person anymore for a million. And I mean, I like to believe that I've written a pretty strong catalog of songs, but that's just me. That's for other people to decide. But, being it's difficult to monetize creativity because it's difficult to remain consistent because it's not a product. It's, it's like it's like a howl into the wind, and
It's a
that's
creative.
that's kind of what I always thought my songwriting was. It was, clinically you could look at it as a diary entry, but all those songs on some level are me screaming to the heavens, I'm alive,
Amen.
I'm here.
Amen. That's right. All right. Another song I wanted to pick your brains over a little bit is The Avenue. The Avenue. Listen, especially very recently, I'm in the St. Louis area, and I've always lived in Tornado Alley. I grew up in Kansas. I'm in St. Louis. I have a couple hometowns, Lenexa, Kansas, St. Louis, Missouri. I live in Edwardsville. I've lived in Boston. I've lived multiple places. But St. Louis has a very big piece of my heart. And earlier this year in May, we were torn apart by a tornado. And, it was in downtown St. Louis, real close. I think I read there was like close to 5,000 homes, businesses, churches destroyed, and in an area where there's not a lot of resources. And you probably can relate to that. This town's a part of my story, a part of my heart, and we're still not completely restored. So do you mind picking up the guitar again? Would you be able to play a little snippet of that for us?
Because the marching bands will roll, I'll find my city in my soul. Because I plan on rolling on together. And the sun rays will rise again. I'll see my family and my friends. Because this will not be the end of the avenue.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. I appreciate that. And actually, I had a conversation with a student of mine. I teach part-time at St. Louis U, and I get to meet people from all over the world. One of my very near dear students is from Jamaica. And I know, well, she's good. Her family's good. In fact, her grandparents were here when it all happened. But I pointed her to that song as I was talking about healing, and it's a lot of emotion. Yeah. Can you talk to me about your emotional process recovering from Katrina?
For each song, it's different. Every song is different. Every song is a completely unique experience in terms of what the impetus is, where it goes, how it's done. For that song, it was kind of obvious in that, I didn't want to write one of those, New Orleans is coming back, the parades, Mardi Gras, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But I didn't want to write that kind of thing, but I also didn't want to write something angry, Mm-hmm. And the way I kind of I've told the story a million times, the vision I had was Mardi Gras was like New Orleans was a friend. New Orleans was a person sitting next to me after a really, really bad bar fight. And New Orleans got hell kicked out of it. Yeah. And the way I saw it was I was sitting here with my friend on the corner, New Orleans. I had my arm around him. It's like, this is really bad. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's really, really, really bad. But it will get better. It'll take time, take a lot of work, but it'll get better.
Yeah. It did. I actually was in New Orleans twice this year. And the first time I was in New Orleans, I graduated college. it was before Katrina. It was a long time ago. Then I was there twice this year. I was there for Jazz Fest. We caught you at Rock and Bowl? Rock and Bowl. Yeah. We got to see you there. You were playing Jazz Fest the weekend we were not in town. So otherwise we would have totally been there. Anyways. And as I was walking the city, it felt the same to me. Now, I'm not a resident. I've been there a handful of times, but I do remember thinking, man, I was worried about your town. I loved it the first time I went. I've loved it every time I've been there. But it feels vibrant. It feels like New Orleans.
New Orleans is a young city. It's a young city in terms of the differences pre-Katrina, post-Katrina. For somebody like me, this is 20 years ago. So I was much younger living there than I am now. But even though the city had a worldwide reputation as being a fun place, before Katrina, it was very inexpensive. And it was almost as much as people knew about it, was as much as they didn't really invest in it, you know? It was kind of like, it was almost like this little secret place. You could go, everything was cheap. You could live there cheap. You could eat like a king for nothing. It was a
Eat
really
like a king.
easy place to live, easy place to be. And then after Katrina, you know, it seemed like a lot of carpetbaggers moved in, you know. But I mean, that's kind of unfortunately the case for a lot of cities in the country right now, where everything's just gotten so insanely expensive. I had the urge to write that, and I wrote it about a specific event, but people have used that song as kind of as a way to, as a step in kind of the healing process of getting past major events, be they something like a natural disaster or a man-made disaster, or, you know, like, you know, loss, breakup, something like that. It's just basically, yeah, this is bad. It'll get better with time. Just, you know, one step in front of the other. And that's right. I was really lucky that I wrote that song. My opinion was at the time, it's like, if all this whole Cowboy Mouth thing has just led to this moment, for us to play this song for this generation of people in this city, to kind of, you know, be kind of a slight hand up, you know, and just kind of help us all kind of, you know, get back to doing what we need to do. And it was all worth it. Thankfully, it hasn't been. The story's continued, but at that moment, I remember thinking, okay, if this is what it's all about, I'm fine with that. Good with me.
I mean, I look at that song as an anthem for healing from tragedy.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Now, putting that in the context of a Cowboy Mouth show, we played that song every night for like 3 years. And every night we played that song without fail. Every night we played that song. Somebody would come up and sob. I like to think I'm a relatively empathetic guy, but at the same time, every night, you know, just people kind of just sobbing, using that moment to just sob. It was like, after a while, I was like, we got to stop playing this song. It's killing me, you know?
Well, and I bet, did it kill the vibe of your typical show?
Oh,
did it just rock the world a little bit?
Really, it was a struggle to bring that back up, you know? So we don't play it as much anymore. It doesn't really fit, you know, in terms of it being a whole song, mostly because we're not carrying a piano. You know, pianos, it costs extra money to carry a keyboard. So, so what we do sometimes is, I'll do it like acoustically as part of I Believe or something like that. Yeah. And so, you know, but we don't play a lot of songs we used to play. We play a lot of the hits, but you know, we've got such a varied catalog of songs that it's tough to play everything all the time. So
yeah, you know, when I always try to bring new fans to the show, and I've given the speech many times. People say, I've heard that name, that sounds familiar. And I say, well, they had a real big hit in the 90s called Jenny Says. And then I give them a couple lyrics. Oh, yeah. And I say, okay, it's a cool song. Cool. Love it. Can rock out to it. But man, there's some other stuff that I think is so much more powerful. You're welcome. Yeah. So I brought someone to the show, actually, my friend John. He and I play Ultimate together. He's a good man. He took a team that I started and he coached them up. He did a good job. But in St. Louis, he came for the first show, and I told him, I said, it's going to be an experience. And when it was all said and done, he told me I was right, you know, and that's a man who consumes a lot of music. So you should take that as a compliment.
Yes, I will.
Yeah. So the next song I wanted to talk about, I have one more. It's a fun one. Do you want to guess? Let's play a guessing game. What song out of all your songs?
I have no idea. You picked two. I wouldn't have thought. I mean, you know, I'm very proud of those songs, but I wouldn't have thought those two. But anyway, go ahead. What?
Okay. Well, now I want to ask you what songs you think. Well, that's a whole nother. We could go down a rabbit hole about what did I? No. So the next song I was looking at was Uh-Oh.
Holy moly. Good
Lord. You didn't see that one coming either, did you?
I hadn't thought about that song in years.
Oh, I love it so much.
I'm falling in love. Falling in love. Falling in love. Yeah, okay. I remember.
Yeah, there it is. There's a little snippet for you. It feels like the very first time. So let me see. There, you go into a part, it says, and this is into the song.
Yeah, yeah.
My girlfriend says I ought to take it like a big, strong man. My guy friends think I ought to break it if I yell loud as fast as I can. Now, I'm real curious where those lyrics came from. Can you talk to me about that?
The dichotomy between men and women, you know?
Right. Yes.
Yeah, I was in a relationship that was kind of like, you know, it had some good things and it had some bad things, and it's just kind of using music to kind of work those out in my subconscious. You know, it wasn't me going consciously like, hey, let me write about this. It'll make me seem so clever. It's like all going on back. Just kind of presents itself. But yeah, just kind of the man-woman dynamic, you know, kind of some of the stuff we were talking about before you started recording the show, you know, about the difference in men and women, the difference in how we perceive and experience life, the world, relationships, yada, yada, all that type of stuff. So, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you say take it like a big, strong man. And let me tell you, that is a notion that is wide and far. And I'm raising two boys and I'm trying to teach them differently than that, man. And
yeah, but yeah, you know, you got to watch out for that too, because, you know, being a guy is not, you know, look, you know, I've learned a long time ago that, you know, nobody has it easy in this life. Some people have it easier, but nobody has it easy. You know, all these people that think, oh, if only I had $1 billion and, you know, it was Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, you know, or something like that, it'd be easy. It's like, no, those guys don't have it easy. It might seem like they have it easier, but they don't have it easy. You know, nobody has an easy ride. You know?
no one has it easy. And I think, you know, I'm a self-proclaimed feminist, but I believe right now is a real tough time to be a man. I think we're flipping the script. You know, 50 years ago, we put women in the work field and we had to go through some change. And I think right now the dudes are trying to catch up to what does it mean? What does work-life balance look like?
It's when you evaluate people based on certain characteristics and don't take into account other characteristics as well as individuality, because we're all different. Every single person is different. Every single person has different experiences, different perceptions, different perspectives. You know, you can't say all women want this and all guys want this and blah, 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 you know, because that's just not the way it is. My children are at that point where they're trying to, you know, figure out their opinions, figure out their perception of the world. And, you know, it's like, oh, well, this group of people, that group of people. And I say, look, here's the deal. At the end of the day, you know, there's really, you make a decision and everybody has to make this decision at least once a day, sometimes several times a day. You're either a decent human being or you're a piece of shit. And we're all guilty of every step in between. And we all have to make a decision. You know? And, you know, it's kind of like, you know, be a little empathetic, give people a break. You know, we're all fighting a battle.
Yes, for sure.
You never know what people are going through. Like when I was much, 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 much younger, I in my line of work, when I was in that first band, I managed to meet people who I thought were, you know, my version of rock stars. I met this one guy who was, and I'm not going to say his name.
Okay.
But, you know, and it was like, and I met him in a professional situation. It wasn't like, oh, I'm a fan, you know, it's like, you know, anything like that. You know, I met him in a professional circumstance and everything like that. And he was just it was a really unpleasant experience for me. And it made me see this guy and his band differently. And I couldn't listen to them for like about 15 years because I took it so personal. And it wasn't until I understood later, it's like, okay, well, you never know what people are going through, you know, and, you know, I hope that, you know, there's more people that have come up to me and I hope more people have had positive experiences than negative experiences, but who knows, you know, but, so it's kind of like, and as far as the man and woman thing, going back to that,
Mhm.
it's a very difficult time to be a man because, and it has nothing to do with women being in the workforce. I think that's more of a sense of individuality. Some women want to be in the workforce. Some women, have that natural inclination to stay at home, be a homemaker, which, don't kid yourself. It ain't easy.
I've done both.
Some guys,
I've done both, and I'm not at home anymore.
exactly. Some guys want to do that, So
Yeah.
it's not specific to a group of people based on gender, sexuality, political preference, skin color, any of that bullshit. It all comes down to the individual. And that's kind of my thinking and my feeling and my experience on it. So
Sure.
it's
I've
not
had some
it's not easy being a guy these days. Everything's our fault, which is bullshit. You have to learn to kind of take things like that with a sense of humor,
Mhm.
in that, you can't lash back. You can't, and sometimes just by virtue of who and what we are, you get blamed for things that, have nothing to do with you. Just like we all do. We all get blamed for shit that has nothing to do with us. And it all comes down to the individual.
Sure.
It all comes down to
I've had some real interesting conversations around this topic lately that have brought some things to light for me. I think even, and this is coming from a man's perspective, someone I care about and respect very much, that he says he has trouble knowing how to navigate being a kind, friendly person in the workplace. He has, to the point where he feels like it's inappropriate to give compliments to women. And I think that's a bummer because we got to compliment each other. I need a little boost every now and then, but that's something that he has found that he has to be careful with. And on the flip, this conversation came one day when I was like, "Oh man, you are looking handsome today," not meaning to make him uncomfortable, but I did.
I never really spent that much time in the regular workplace like that. I mean, I've had a job that, I've been fortunate to basically be a professional musician since 85. So I've been very fortunate to miss a lot of that shit.
Yeah.
But there is, it's difficult when you're forced to try to navigate your ship based on other people's perspective, feelings, experiences. I mean, it's basically impossible. It's a no-win. You can't win. So my thing has always been, okay, well, just duck your head, plow forward, and just do your best. See what happens.
I like it. I like it. So, well, as we are wrapping up, I just want to check in, Fred. Where are you at on your healing journey? What is going on in your world these days?
Every day above ground,
Yeah.
Try to get as healthy as I can.
How do you do that?
Huh?
How do you keep yourself healthy?
I try to get a good amount of sleep.
Yes, that is so important. And as a rock star, I bet that's hard to come by.
It can be. It can be. Try to remember what's important. It's I was telling you this earlier. My kids, they got to the point when my son was about like 6 or 7. My little girl was younger. It's like, "Daddy, are you famous?" And I was like, "Well, some people might think I am, but a lot of people don't, and that's fine. It is what." And I taught them, notoriety, fame, whatever you want to call it. It's not real. It's not tangible. It's based on other people's perceptions. So, a lot of people that work very hard to kind of facilitate that, illusion or whatever. And that's fine. That's great,
because we're living in a world where nothing here is really real, to quote a smart man.
You gotta let go.
Gotta let it go. Sorry, carry on.
So in that, letting go of that idea of being so wedded to other people's perceptions, perspectives, expectations. Letting go of a lot of that stuff was really good for me because I had to understand what I got out of the whole deal. And just that simple joy of playing music, that simple joy of interacting with an audience, allowing myself to fall on my face and say, okay, well, get up, do it again. Let's try again. Yeah.
That faith that can give you some strength to push through, right? That faith gives you the strength.
Yeah. And that's what it is. It's always a leap of faith, always a leap of faith.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that song, I believe, it's like, I believe in the spirit of rock and roll, not necessarily rock and roll. I mean, I love rock and roll, obviously, but the spirit of rock and roll, and the spirit of it is what forced people to create it in the first place. That feeling of just mixing gospel churches with the blues and creating this feeling of release that some people saw as sinful and shameful, and other people saw as a way to escape, untenable situations. For me, rock and roll kind of saved my life. I didn't really, my folks loved me, and all that stuff. But by the time I came along, I was much later than all the other kids. I was, as my mom explained it to me, I was, my parents got drunk at my uncle's wedding and ta-da, stuff.
Oh,
and,
that's where Fred came from.
Yeah. But, I was very fortunate. I always had a roof over my head. I always had, there was always food in the fridge and things like that. But at the same time, very lonely kid. There was no real guidance. By the time I came along, my folks were just done. They were just done. And, if you raise kids, you know how it is,
I get it.
And so as a result, I kind of had to make up my own life, just kind of dream up my own life, the positives and the negatives. It's like, okay, well, whatever the rules are, and I intuitively kind of saw through it. It's like, that's kind of bullshit. That's more, understanding that a lot of the systems of institution were more about control than they were about inherent wisdom. It's like they're saying this not because it's the best thing. They're saying it because it keeps them on, in control, or so it's like, okay, what do I have to do here? The rules are the rules, not because they're better or worse in every case. Sometimes they are, but the rules can also be the rules because it benefits a certain group of people,
certain system, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I want to share a quote from a very smart, a very smart man, someone I love in my life, Pastor Dave. He says, "Where there is control, there's no room for love."
Exactly. That's true. That's true.
And love wins. Oh, here it is. Love wins. That is our motto at my church.
One of the things I there's a video on YouTube of an old Christian kind of theologist, guy named Joseph Murphy, and it's a speech he made. It's really crude recording, badly edited, but it's called The Secret of Life. And in it, in the first 5 minutes, he talks about the secret of life being joy and connecting with that joy. And I kind of understood that intuitively with playing music, but I didn't really start to explore it consciously until I put Cowboy Mouth together. And I'm always discovering new things. And during lockdown, it was kind of something I really dove into, just to say, okay, be conscious, be present. And there's a small exercise that he mentions in this video about, basically visualizing health, visualizing attitude and things like that. And, you're not always going to be perfect every day, but I find that, it's been my experience as I've gotten older that, the consciousness creates reality and not the other way around. Matter doesn't create consciousness, and in this life, like I try to tell my kids, it's like you either happen to life or life happens to you, and once again, that's an everyday thing, so in the idea of self-healing is something I really got into, and I've seen very, very, very tangible results from. It's like, okay, it's unusual in that, like, if something doesn't, if there's not anything I can do to help myself in terms of healing or health, then I open myself up to possibilities, and they present themselves any number of ways. The big guy upstairs loves to be creative. He loves, it's like the old Voltaire quote, God's a comedian playing to an audience that's terrified to laugh. I love that.
I love that.
Yeah, that's great. But so it's a matter of, and there's some things like learning things like back in the 90s and 2000s, we were on tour all the time, and I was constantly in a state of, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
You were in survival mode. I call that survival mode, and your nervous system is overstimulated.
Yeah, and I always managed to kind of release that while playing the shows. So the shows were more often than not very real experiences in terms of interaction, in terms of energy, in terms of joy, but just all the other crap that we had to deal with, was very much, fight or flight. And one thing I learned was that, like, when you're in fight or flight mode, your brain shrinks slightly. I didn't know this. It shrinks slightly. So therefore, possibilities, concepts become closed. They're not, they stop existing in those moments because it's fight or flight, and which explains why the media matrix tries to keep us all in constant fight or flight. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And in order to succeed on a mass level in the media matrix, you have to kind of surrender yourself to that world. And over time, it was kind of like, I'm not sure I want to do this. I kind of want my goal always, when Cowboy Mouth dove into the music business end of it, we were presented with an opportunity around 94, 95. Some friends of ours, this band called Hootie and the Blowfish, I'm sure you remember them. They were friends of ours. They used to open up for us. We used to open up for them. We were just Southeastern musicians doing our own thing. Well, for about a year and a half, they became the biggest band in the world.
They were on Friends. They were on an episode of Friends one time.
Oh yeah, they were. Yeah. And in fact, it's a funny story. And and it just kind of happened. They didn't expect it. It's not a reflection of how good they were or how bad they were. I mean, they were always great, but things like that were just so seemingly out of the realm of possibility. So all of a sudden, they handed out opportunities to all their friends, of which we were one group. It's like, hey, this has happened for us. See what you can make. We'll put you here. And they gave us a West Coast tour when they were the biggest band in the world, on the cover of Rolling Stone back when that mattered, selling literally truckloads of albums at the moment. And they said, okay, dear old buddies that we've shared many drunken, crazy nights, many Mardi Gras with, we're going to have you open up for us on the West Coast. We're not playing bars anymore. We're playing arenas. You guys are going to open up for us so you can get a record deal. And so, I tell people we went from playing an old Cajun dance hall one week in Lafayette, Louisiana, to a bunch of Cajun drunks, to the next week, playing before the hottest band in the world at the Greek Theater before Springsteen and the cast of Friends. It's like, okay, this is different. And, so, and my thinking was, okay, number one, if we're going to do this, I can't complain about getting bitten if I'm going to dive into the deep end of the shark pool. And it's just the way it is, number one. And number two, my desire was to kind of bring what we do in terms of the joy and celebration, positivity, and all that stuff, bring that into that world and see if we could kind of infiltrate it from within. It worked on some levels. It didn't work on other levels, but I was glad to try. But we
was that a challenge, going from that intimate setting to that arena? Did that overwhelm you at all?
Most natural thing in the world. Most natural. We had played big shows before we signed to major labels, festivals and things like that, number one. And John, our guitar player, John Griffith, who's been in the band, he was the lead singer of this band called Red Rockers. And they had done arena tours in the 80s with like the Go-Go's, Men at Work, U2, when, they had done like real arena tours. So he knew that world. My band in the 80s, that band I was talking about, Dash Rip Rock, we had a certain level of success that taught me how to deal with certain levels of performing and things like that. So it was exciting, but it wasn't intimidating. It was like, oh, okay, this is easy. So, and the food's better backstage. So there you go,
Better than New Orleans food? I don't think that's possible.
Well, but we weren't always in New Orleans.
We're comparing apples to oranges here. Yeah. So what I love hearing this story that I didn't know is I love the concept of someone succeeding, crushing their dreams, but pulling people up with them. And I think that is the new form of success. I think, back 50, 60 years ago, I think in the business world, if people wanted to succeed, it's almost like you had to squash down your competition. Yeah. And I think that's a concept we are getting over right now. We are learning that we rise up by bringing people up with us.
Yeah, and that is exactly the point, which is one of the reasons why I was so personally focused on approaching the show and the attitude of the band like we have for 30, 35 years. It's like, do something different. I was reading a bunch of Norman Vincent Peale when I first started playing with the band, and I realized, okay, I have to be a front man. What am I going to say? And like I said earlier, I didn't want to be like, oh, let's party, everybody's going crazy, type stuff. I want to be, and I would just start, instead of saying stuff like that in between songs, all right, you guys having a good time? Believe in yourself and anything's possible. Let's go. Blah, blah, blah. And I noticed the reaction to that was really visceral and immediate. I was like, oh, people are hungry for this. They want this. It's like, okay, let me go further and further. And it helped me kind of use natural parts of my personality to become, that guy on stage. It is part of my personality. It's not all there is to it, but I'm not going up there and say, hey, being Mr. Faker or anything like that. It's part of who I am. But at the same time, it's been something that's I've been able to really use to the band's benefit over the years. I think we've been able to benefit off of that, and vice versa, so.
Yeah. And I'm taking all this to heart because, in my own little arena, I'm trying to become a thing right now, Fred. You are a thing. I'm trying to become a rock star in my healthcare, health and wellness, educational world.
Looks like you're getting there.
I'm working on it, and you are helping me right now. You are taking your success and you are pulling me up with you, and I am grateful.
Here's one thing you got to understand, okay? At no point will somebody come up and say, okay, you're a thing now. Ooh, I reached things. It kind of happens without you noticing it. And once again, it's based on other people's perceptions. So if you're trying to fill a hole that can't be filled inside of yourself by doing whatever, then you're not going to realize it. But at the same time, the flip side of that is, if you have a lot of, ego and stuff like that, unplaced ego, then, you thought you were hot snot walking in the door, so it's just find joy and find satisfaction in the process of doing. If I allowed myself to judge my own success or failure based on the size of a room, the size of a crowd, or something like that, if that's where I tried to find my joy, then I'd be up shit creek,
Yeah.
I enjoy the process of hitting the drum. I enjoy the process of feeling the energy move through me. I enjoy the adrenaline, because that's, it's something I enjoy so profoundly, that I feel it has an immediate effect on my physicality, my soul being, all that type of stuff. Those are the things that matter. I want the audience to have a great time. I really do, because I don't like wasting people's time, mostly my own. But at the same time, look, if it didn't work for me on a personal and business level, I wouldn't do it. And so when you reach thingness, you might not be aware of it. So take joy in the process. Don't always take joy in the result. It's okay to say, oh, okay, I've reached a certain point. That's good.
Yeah.
Good job, Kate. let's move forward,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. Part of my process right now that I am struggling with is, the whole, I just dropped my first episode this week, and, I'm creating a safe space to be vulnerable
Mhm.
and being vulnerable with my own self. Right. And having my audience help me be accountable to that and sharing some of those things that I have struggled with. Those are, that is something that is, woof, it's work. It's work up here. I'm pointing to my head for those listening. It's work in here, pointing to my heart space. It is work to try to achieve something that you didn't think was possible. The imposter syndrome comes in. And for me, that's pretty thick. And I'm grateful. I have a good support team. I got all kinds of support. I got a psychiatrist. I got a therapist. I got a different therapist. I got a chiropractor and a massage therapist. And I got a pastor. I am trying to pull in all the things I can to help keep me grounded, to help keep me level. Trying to stay level for me is important. And I want to go back to, you were talking about being in fight or flight mode. Fight or
Two,
flight mode. Mm.
two things.
Yes.
I realized I could succeed more if I stopped trying.
Ooh.
And I was trying for a long time. Then I realized, stop trying. Just be. Just be.
You're the second person to tell me that recently.
Well, then obviously, perhaps I know what I'm talking about. It's just worked for me. Stop trying. Stop trying. And doesn't mean you don't put effort for it. Doesn't mean you don't enjoy it. Doesn't mean you don't work. It just, sometimes trying, gets in the way. And I would tell you something that Bo Diddley taught me. One of our first big gigs back in like 1991, early 1991, because we formed in October of 90. One of the first big gigs we ever played was opening up for and then being the backing band for Bo Diddley. Oddly, in Charlotte, North Carolina. We had never played there before at that time. And so, but we had some friends who were booking some shows for us, and they got us. So, we played in front of like 1,200 people, and I think we made $200. But it was totally well, it is what it is. And I was a huge Bo Diddley fan. Huge. Had all the old scratchy records and things like that. And it was just a huge honor for me. It was one of the best nights of my life. Just fun, a lot of fun. And he had so much fun playing with us. He was only supposed to play an hour. He ended up playing 2 hours.
Wow, it's the best.
And so after the show, he was cooking himself some chicken. He was part of that generation of African-American Black musicians who, they just ended up cooking for themselves because you never know where you'd be able to get a meal. You never know if you get a hotel or stuff like that. It is what it is, but, he was frying himself up some chicken after the show. Everybody's hanging out. There's a room full of backstage people. And it's like, wow, so Mr. Diddley, what do you call him? What do you, what kind of advice can you give, a young guy just starting a band? And he took it seriously. He wasn't like flipping or anything. It's like, He goes, look at me. He goes, well, son, keep it simple and think of church.
Amen.
I was like, yeah. He goes, yeah, you do that, you'll be all right. I was like, and I can't tell you how many times I've replayed that conversation in my head over the years. Just keep thinking church, keep yourself grounded, keep yourself connected to the source, whatever that is for you. And you'll be all right. Don't complicate it so much. Stop trying.
I love it.
Keep it simple and think of church.
Keep it simple and think of church. We're gonna hold on to that advice right there. Now, I have a dream, Fred. I have a dream of closing out this episode playing my favorite song,
which is
Cowboy Mouth. I believe.
Oh, okay.
Now you can play it for us live. We could play your. We're gonna do it live. Yes. This song is my song with my partner. This is our song, and I swear to God, Fred, you must have known us when you wrote it. Every single lyric, every single one applies to our life. That first verse, that's totally me. That second verse, that's totally him, and then the rest is us.
This song had a pretty interesting gestation. in the, I mean, interesting to me. It was, I remember I was thinking, and I rarely think like this, you know, it's like, I think I want to write a song with just 2 chords, you know, and I had the melody, and it was like, okay, that's a cool melody, you know, and the reason I got that, I wanted to write a song for 2 chords because I remember this distinctly. Cowboy Mouth was in New York. We were doing a sound check at a place called BB King's. It was on Times Square. Used to be where we played in New York all the time. Always packed it, sold it out a few times. Great room, really nice people that work there, pack it out, a lot of fun. And we're doing a sound check. And I remember I was trying to teach John a new song that I'd written. And he was just in a foul mood. And he was just complaining about, this song has too many chords. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, all right, you son of a bitch. I'm going to write a song that only has 2 chords, you know? And I told myself that, and I was like, and then it's like, well, it'd really help if there was a 3rd chord. And then I came up with the verse. I had all kinds of chords, so that went out the window. But I remember thinking, it's like, okay. And I was really struck by the melody chorus. You know, I really like that, you know. And then moving it to a different kind of chord where whatever that was.
Yeah.
I like doing things like that, you know. If you listen to my songs, a lot of times musically they're circles. Everything goes in circles. You know, it's just kind of the way it works. And I remember just thinking, okay, just my mindset at the time, what are you going to do? You know, what you going to do with the restlessness inside you? And I remember I was kind of thinking that at the time, okay, just kind of still going through that process of just kind of where I was and where I was going. You know, it's like, okay, if I'm gonna use this song and have this melody, then I want it to be something that's true to me. I don't want to disguise it with clever wordplay. Where am I right now? What am I doing right now? And I came up with the verses, the what you gonna do, and the little boy doesn't care. Yeah. That was basically, you know, me. You know, all of that was me. It's like, okay, and then the melody, I was like, okay, what do I believe? And I started trying to think of things. And I remember this conscious process saying, okay, what can I say I believe that the audience will like? And I was like, wait a sec, stop that. Don't do that. What do you believe? I was like, well, you know, okay, I believe in rock and roll. I think, no, I believe in the spirit of rock and roll. The spirit. I believe in the spirit of rock and roll, in the eternal strength of the immortal soul. And these are things that was like very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very, I guess for lack of a better term, deep concepts that I'd wrestled with in order to find within myself. You know, the idea of being connected to something grander, whether it's God or the oversoul or whatever you want to call it, you know.
The creator, the universe.
Blah, 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 all that stuff, you know. And, you know, but I you know, that's the important relationship in your life. You know, everything else stems from that, you know. So I believe in the spirit of rock and roll and the eternal strength of the immortal soul.
That sometimes everybody's got to let it go.
But I believe in the sound of Sam and Dave. And I had a manager at the time who was we had a manager at the time who was very conscious of the New Orleans aspect. No, you need to write like Fats Domino or Dave Bartholomew. It needs to be, I believe in the sound of Fats and Dave. And it's like, no. I love Fats Domino, love Dave Bartholomew, but I believe in the sound of Sam and Dave. And this is one of the major instances where it's like, no.
Yeah.
I'm not writing this for anybody else but me. This is myself. And you know, that was real, and that's how come I don't repeat any of the beliefs listed until the very end. I say that I believe in the spirit of rock and roll at the very, very end, but there's a whole lot of things that's like, and they really are like, you know, like that all that you get is all that you gave.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that sometimes you got to take a chance, thrill of the fall is part of the thrill of the dance. That's basically my life story. I'm just kind of like, okay, I've always done crazy things, whether it's physically crazy or emotional crazy, asking an audience to go someplace where they might not be comfortable, and not always and not always having it work. Like, I always tell the story about when I was in Dash Ruprock, we opened up for this band called the Georgia Satellites, who had a big hit at the moment. And they were friends of ours. A song called "Keep Your Hands to Yourself." Don't have me no lies and keep your hands to yourself. Got a little. It was a big deal. And it's the first time, it was the first time I'd ever been, first time I'd ever experienced that energy of hanging around somebody who had an active hit record. Like, this is happening. There's different energy to it. Like, you're part of something that's, almost like organic and feel. It's like, this is happening whether you make it happen or not. And so, and I'll never forget. And they were a great bunch of guys. We got along. We played some shows together, and they were having a fun night. This was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. My band had opened up, and we'd had just a killer set. And and the drummer is like, I was on the side of the stage just watching them rocking out. He goes, "Hey, Fred, you want to play a song?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I get up and play a song, an old Chuck Berry thing. It's just fun. Crowd's going nuts. It's like 800 or 900 people in a room that's built basically for 200. And just that energy of just insanity. And I was playing the song, and I was thinking to myself, I know what I do. I'll know what I'll do. This is going to be cool, and everybody will think I'm cool, and I will be the coolest person in the room. At the end of the song, I'm going to jump on the bass drum and dive off, and it'll be awesome. And I'll be the coolest person in the room. And I thought that, And so what happened was, the song ends, it's great. And I jump on the bass drum, and I'm thinking, I'm going to jump off the bass drum, and at the last possible millisecond, the bass drum, because of my weight, because, being a human being on a drum, it shifted ever so slightly, like, and it threw my balance off. And I didn't land on my feet on the stage. I landed flat on my face. I can take that. I'm a big boy. But do you know what it's like to have 800 or 900 people just going to go, asshole? Like, okay, well, gotta get up. Push off. It is what it is.
You did that. You survived that.
Yeah, that's right. It wasn't the end of the world. I felt like an idiot. I was an idiot. But, and it's like, okay, well, I tried for something. Didn't work out. But, life goes on. And it's like,
it hurt your pride more than it hurt your body. As a physical therapist, I'm concerned about your brain, your head, your neck. But it sounds like it was more of a bruise to the ego.
He can't kill me. I'm already dead.
Okay.
But
okay.
It was that kind of, and that's kind of what that song is. I believe that sometimes you got to take a chance. You can't spend your life just listening.
Can't.
All part of the thrill of the dance. I believe we're never really all alone. There's so much more than anything we're shown. New Orleans is always going to be my own, because it is. I wrote that song completely for me, about me and my experience. And it's so weird because that song has proven to be one of the more universal ones. I mean, that song is second in popularity for Cowboy Mouth, only to Jenny Says, even like other songs we had on radio, because that song was never, by the time we released that song, we had kind of radio had outgrown us, and so, but that's, the fans love it. And every time we play that song, people hear it and it's a very real response. It's like, okay, right. Kind of putting it out.
Yeah. You close out the St. Louis show with it, with a really beautiful, fun rendition of it. Right. Different than what I've heard on the radio. It's different because it's different every time. And you created that experience for us. Yeah. We just started closing out with it sometimes, just to kind of make the show different a little bit. And, I think it's appropriate. The vibe is appropriate. Perfect. It was perfect. Now, I saw that you were doing a solo show coming up here soon. How often is that something you do frequently?
I don't do those often. A buddy of mine in El Dorado, Arkansas, has a really great restaurant called Fay Ray's. It's right on the square of the small town. And they have me come in and do shows. And they have a core audience that'll come in and eat dinner. And watch these shows, and I'll do it. I do a lot of home shows, sometimes with John Griffith, sometimes not. We played a few during lockdown, and it was a good way to kind of keep the bills paid a little bit. And we still do some from time to time. In fact, if you ever want to book us for any of those, write us at either fred@cowboymouth.com, or if you want John and I, write john@cowboymouth.com.
Excellent.
And I'm getting ready to, this is news. I haven't said this anywhere yet. I'm getting ready.
Breaking news right here on the Healing Journey with Fred LeBlanc and Dr. Kate Olin. Okay, that's a perfect reel. What's our breaking news, Fred LeBlanc?
I'm releasing a 5-song EP, a solo EP, in a few weeks called One Man's Trash. And it's got, I'm pretty proud of it. It's something I did during lockdown, and one song I recorded like 10, 15 years ago that I just never got around to putting out. It's good. It came out really good, and it'll be on all the streaming services in about 2 or 3 weeks.
All right. I'm going to put this episode up at the top of my list because I want everybody to know what's coming out with Fred.
Thank you.
Yes.
And Fred, Cowboy Mouth has some new stuff coming up in 2026, and but I can't really announce that yet.
I understand, but if they follow you, where's the best place to follow Cowboy Mouth?
All the social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all that type of stuff. Well, our latest album that we had out is an album called Cover Your Ass, which all the covers, it has like us doing The Replacements, Frank Sinatra, Cher, REM, Hootie and the Blowfish, Pat's Domino.
It's so fun. It's so fun to hear those songs that you have in your head, how they're supposed to sound, and hear them with the Cowboy Mouth vibe. So much fun. Yeah. So much fun. Because it's not just a cover, we're going to play it the way they did it. We're going to play it our way.
Our way. It's like my favorite song on the album is probably John's take on The Who, The Real, which is he sang his ass off of that. So I'm really proud of that. And we also use that to try to figure out how to release music and try to figure that all out. So sure.
And for the listeners, I want them to know that Cover Your Ass is AZZ. If they're trying to, right?
Cover is to cover yo, yo apostrophe and AZZ exclamation point. Cover your ass.
There we go.
Cover your ass.
We're going to put that in the show notes. We're going to put your video that you mentioned with Joseph Murphy. We'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, the Secret of Life. Like the first 5 minutes, he lays out a really simple exercise. I try to do it most days, but it's made tangible difference in my life. Very tangible.
I can't wait to say that.
Really simple. It's something you do like a few minutes. It's not a big, it's like something you do laying down. It's just it's as much mental as it is anything else.
Yeah. And sometimes healing just takes a few minutes.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm a firm believer in the idea that, we have the propensity to heal ourselves, but we're just not in touch with that, and because I've had those types of experiences in my life, and, it's very eye-opening.
Yeah. Maybe if you ever want to continue the conversation, we can dive deeper into that. But for now, we're going to say, Fred LeBlanc, any last words for the audience before we close out?
Boola boola.
Love it. Very Fred. Fred, thank you so much for your time today. I had so much fun chatting with you. I really appreciate you joining us here on the Healing Journey.
Me too, Kate. Take care of yourself.
Wow, what a rush. I had so much fun picking the brain of one of my all-time favorite rock stars about one of my favorite subjects, the art of healing. Fred and I covered so much ground today that I've decided to create a follow-up episode to unpack some of the themes we explored. Keep an eye out for that recap with supporting content to deepen the conversation Fred and I just shared. I also have an important announcement. While I've been working on producing this episode, I have received word from my student that I told Fred about, the one that's from Jamaica. I sent her his song, The Avenue, to try to help bring some comfort to her and her family as they were dealing with a tragedy that hit their hometown. Well, my friend, her 80-year-old auntie, lost her home, her possessions, everything in the recent hurricane. And she and I have been putting our brains together, trying to figure out the best way we could come up with to support her auntie. Now, by the time this episode goes live, I'm really hopeful there's a GoFundMe link in the show notes. This community has such a powerful heart, and I'm grateful to use this platform to try to shine a little light where it is needed most. If you feel called to try to donate, please know nothing is too small of a donation to help out. And now I do have an exciting update. Many of you have learned that this podcast is a part of a larger project, my online platform, Thrive Everywhere. Now, we are planning to go live at thriveeverywhere.com sometime in the next 4 to 6 weeks. And we're currently working on recruiting private practice clinicians to join our online directory, the only directory designed exclusively for private practice clinicians. To join, you must hold a state or federally governed professional license and be independent from large healthcare systems. Our goals for this project are very ambitious, but I also think very necessary. We're trying to improve the healthcare landscape, help people navigate it more wisely, humanize the providers who are showing up every day, and unite in a way that drives meaningful change within the healthcare and the insurance systems. Now listen, we cannot do this alone, so if this mission speaks to you, please follow us on Facebook at Thrive Everywhere to stay updated and get involved. Or subscribe to this podcast and you will get all the up-to-date information. So, lastly, just as Fred and the boys closed out their recent show here in St. Louis, we're going to close out this episode of The Healing Journey with my absolute favorite Cowboy Mouth song, I Believe. Take it away, boys.
What you gonna do with the restlessness inside your worried mind? How you think you ever gonna get ahead when you feel so far behind? Step inside this endless moment for a subtle touch of grace. I've always found my strength inside the act of faith. I believe in the spirit of rock and roll, in the eternal strength of the immortal soul. Cause sometimes everybody's gotta let it go. I believe in the power of love. I believe in the sound of 7 days. That little children should occasionally misbehave. That all that you get is all that you gave. I believe in the power of love. Little boy staring out a windowsill to a world that doesn't care. Everybody around is so much bigger, they don't even know he's there. But one day he's gonna grow to be a man, and maybe then they'll see he'll provide the hope and care for the family. I believe in the chance of love at first sight, that your life doesn't always have to be a fight. And if you do it at all, you ought to do it right. I believe in the power of love. I believe that sometimes you gotta take a stand. That you're holding my heart, and when you're holding my hand, cause everything eventually is in God's hands. I believe in the power of love. I have got to take the best of me and keep that part alive. Why'd I ever wanna shut that down and kill my soul? Sometimes you gotta take a chance, that you can't spend your life just listening to cants. Cause the thrill of the fall's part of the thrill of the dance. I believe in the power of love. I believe that we're never really all alone, cause there's so much more than anything we're shown. New Orleans is always gonna be my home. I believe in the power of love. I believe in the spirit of rock and roll, in the eternal strength of the immortal soul. Cause sometimes everybody's gotta let it go. I believe in the power of love.
Thanks for listening to The Healing Journey with your host, Dr. Kate Olin. We hope you enjoyed the experience. Please make sure to follow the show so you don't miss out on any future episodes. And until next time, don't forget to take care of yourself.